We're on video 6, and how convenient, because this is the start of chapter 6. Chapter 6 is all about transformations, which are changes. Now, I was a big Transformers fan when I was a kid, and so when I think of transformations and I think of changes, I think of how a shape, well, not a shape back then, it was more like a robot or a car or something, how they would change from one thing or another. And know what's cool, though, is if you know anything about the Transformers, is that the new points are called primes, okay, like Optimus Prime, right? So when you're transforming these things, and there are going to be 4 types of transformations that we're going to look at, especially today we're going to be looking at translations, which is just a slide. We're also going to look at reflections, which are flips, rotations, which are turns, and then dilations, which is when you shrink or enlarge a shape. That's the only one where the shape is no longer the same once we're done with it. Okay, so translations. If we think about a shape or anything, and I said translation is a slide, if I had this shape, this weird looking shape I made on the board, okay, to slide it, all I would simply do is put it down here maybe, and what did I do? I just did a translation. It's that simple. Today my goal is to try to make you sick a little bit, because we're going to play with the camera a lot. I'm going to do some other things that'll show you what these mean in real life situations. So if I could have my models stand in front of this board. This is for translations. Okay, so here's Ryan and Macy, normal. Now, if I slide Macy over here, and I slide Ryan over here, guess what? They're still Macy and Ryan. That's a translation. Okay, a reflection would be if we looked over here where there's another mirror. I'm in here, Macy's in here, and Ryan's in here on the back. It's the reverse of all of us, but it's still us, so it's a reflection, but still the same thing. The tough one, making you sick, is the rotation, or a turn. So I have my models showing me some example of what a rotation might be. Now, they have stood on their hands. If I rotated their bodies around so that they were upside down, guess what? They're still the same people. And that's a rotation. Okay, you guys, you're off the hook. So, let's go back to the board and talk a little bit more deeply about translations. Now, most of the work that I have on the board, if not all the work that I have on the board, has to do with your skills practice sheet that you can find on Google Classroom and the materials that I keep providing for you. Now, I've only done 4 problems from this whole sheet, but I've done what I think are the hardest of the sheet, the 4 hardest ones. You may or may not agree, but watch and see how this goes. On the skills practice, I only chose to do 2, 3, 8, and 9. Okay? 2 and 3, they don't give the coordinate plane on them, so this will look a tiny bit different, but I gave the coordinate plane because I think it gives you a little bit better reference of how to slide a figure. The figure that they give you is this A, B, C, D figure down there. If you're looking at it, it should look something like this, minus maybe a little bit of drawing error. I made the points, the corners of these, really big black dots, because that's what you really got to concentrate on when you're doing translations. Now, this red figure is what I get when it tells us in your sheet, go 4 right and 1 up. That should be pretty plain and simple. From each point, if I go 4 right and 1 up, from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 up, I get that point. And since this was B, this is now B prime. Like I told you up here, these are going to be primes. 4 right and 1 up from this A dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1. This is now A prime. D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 up. This was D. This is now D prime. And the C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 up. This was C. Now that's C prime. And you connect your dots. And that's all it takes to do a translation. Okay, this is number 3. It had this trapezoid that you have to translate. And it simply tells us to do 1 left and 2 down. So I take my spots that were originally J, K, L, and M, and J goes 1 left and 2 down. It would be right there, and that's J prime. K, 1 left, 2 down. These are going to overlap a little bit, but that's perfectly okay. That's now K prime. L, 1 left, 2 down. Now L becomes L prime down here. and M, 1 left and 2 down, becomes this point right here, which is now M prime. All we did was take that shape and slide it just a little bit. This one was slid just a little bit. Now those are the two from the top half. The bottom half takes it one step further and asks you to originally graph the shape and then translate it after you've graphed it. Now I started it for you. The next one I'm not going to start. We're going to do the whole thing from start to finish. But number 8 says 2 right, 5 down. But before that even, it says point W is at point -4, 3. So I went left 4, up 3, like you should also, and there's my W. Then it says X is at -1, 1. So I went left 1, up 1, and there's my X. Okay? Then it says Y is 2, 3. So I went over 2 and up 3. And it says Z is -1, 5. And though I have all my points, I would have graphed that, and you should too, to where it should look like this. Here, 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 here. It's called a rhombus. You guys might think of it as a diamond shape, but there's no such thing as a diamond, and when you get into actual geometry, that is now a rhombus. All those sides are equal, but it's not having any right angles or anything, so it's not a rectangle or a square. But then, if you look at your sheet, it says we're translating this 2 units to the right and 5 units down. So my new one, I'll use blue for this because it shows up a little bit better for you. If we go 2 right and 5 down for each of these, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That is right on the x-axis right here. That was me moving Z, so this is now Z prime. 2 units right, 5 down from Y. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 units right. By the way, this is now Y prime. 2 units right, 1, 2, down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 2 units right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be right here. And you connect this guy, and you're going to get a shape that looks exactly like this guy, just moved down to this, farther down, almost entirely into what we call the 4th quadrant here. Okay? Translations aren't too hard. I'm going to do number 9 with you from start to finish. So this one will take us a tiny bit longer, but it's still not very hard. No info on my board to start this, because we're going to start right from scratch. Hopefully I can do this without erasing the important lines that I need. And this will be nice because it'll help you remember how to graph your points and stuff, which directions for you to go when, and so on and so forth. So if you look at number 9 on your sheet, it has all these things where you're supposed to do this rectangle QRST. Okay, and it says Q is at -2, -4. Well, if I go -2, then -4, this is where my Q would be. Then it says our R is at -2, 1. -2, 1 would be right there. That's where my R is. Then it says my S is at -4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's S. Okay, I'm going to just move this Q because it's going to be in the way of my drawing. I'm going to put my Q here. And then after S, of course, is T, and that's -4, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And like it said, we're going to get a rectangle that looks like this. That is the first thing you need to be able to do. By the way, that's point T. When you start number 9 and the other problems that you will be asked to do in this lesson. And then it says to translate it 3 units right and 3 units up. And that simply means that from each of these points, you go 3 right and 3 up. Once you get used to these, you do 1 or 2 of the points and you can kind of guess where the rest of them are. But if I was here and I went 3 right, 1, 2, 3, and then went 3 up, 1, 2, 3, this is now where my S prime is. From here, if I go 1, 2, 3 and go 1, 2, 3, this is now where my R prime is. From here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, this is now where my T prime is. And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, this is now where my Q prime is. And when I connect these, I get a new shape where all I did was literally just slide it over and still have the same shape. I'm fully confident that with that little bit of help, you guys can do 6-1. And with that, my next video will talk about reflections. And that's what we call a flip. You'll reflect these shapes over, and you'll see more about that next time. Thank you.